All right. Um, it's March 23rd, 2013, and I'm about to tell you about a dream I just had this morning uh, and comment on some of the things that were in the dream. It's kind of hard for me to put this in words, but uh, I'm going to relate it to you in my own words. All right. I had a dream this morning that I'll tell you the main points. There's some details that are kind of secondary. I had this dream where I was on this snowy mountain and on this mountainside, and it was more like an arena. It's kind of strange. It was almost like an uphill climb, and there was platforms to stand on here and there. Uh, but anyway, I was at the top, and there was this goal structure like around me, and I had it in my head that I'm going to make it easier for other people to get to the top. So there was some rope close by that I tied it to the goal structure, and I went down, and it was really easy for me to go back down and come right back up to the top. But I knew other people had trouble with it. And so, when I was at the top, originally, when I was at the top, I had no trouble. There was no wind, there was no fear, no nothing. But when I tried to make it easier for other people to get to the top, that's when the trouble came. That's when like an unseen force, like a spirit, was trying to wrestle me and knock me down. And at one point, it actually flipped me up in the air and threw me on the ground on the mountain, trying to hurt me, trying to cripple me. And I don't know. There's a lot of details in this dream that are kind of secondary, but there's one thing that I'd like to ask you a question about, right? Why is it that Paul said, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are expedient? Why is it that Jesus said, if you knew what this meant, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless? The word mercy actually means heart, a sympathetic heart. That's what it means. And sacrifice means to give things up. And then why is it that David said, Romans chapter 11, around verse 10 and 11, somewhere around there, David said about the church, about Israel and the church, he said, let their eyes be darkened and let them bow down their back always. Because he knew the same thing that Jesus said, if you knew what this meant, I desire heart and not sacrifice, He would not condemn guiltless. I don't even know how to put this in words, but I don't know. Let me just say it from my own experience. There's been times when I quit smoking cigarettes. There's been times when I quit drinking beer. There was times when I really, really struggled to have God's approval. And I bowed down my back. I had heavy burdens until I realized that his yoke is easy. He says, take my yoke and learn of me. Learn from me. Learn of me. Until I realized that, what proves your character is the Ten Commandments. Don't commit adultery. Don't cheat. Don't steal. Don't bear false witness. Don't covet what's not yours. Honor your father and your mother. Remember the Sabbath. All the Ten Commandments. These bad habits, these cigarettes, it's secondary. Really, a lot of us, that's how we were raised. But what really matters is that you have a good heart, a sympathetic heart. And that's where the church fails. I don't even know what else to say, but in this dream, I had tied a rope to the top, to the goal structure, and I was going to try to make it easier for other people to get up. I realized that it was tied to the top, and when I pull on it, it was going to pull the whole goal structure down. So I had to disregard the rope, and they got to climb up themselves. But it wasn't so hard to climb up. And I figured I'd just show them how I did it. What's funny, though, is that I started from the top, and I went back down. And it's kind of hard to reach people if you're bright and shiny. And I always ask people these questions. Like, how many times do you think Jesus picked his nose every day? They say the average person picks their nose about 4 times a day. And it's amazing. Some people in the church tell me, he never picked his nose. Get real. Come on. He was a carpenter, too. Sawdust gives you them dry boogers. Think he never had to wipe his butt? You think Adam and Eve, in a perfect world, never had to wipe their butt? It is funny, though, what David said is so true. The church was blind, and they bow down their back always. And it's amazing, the same thing happened with Israel when Jesus came, and he was outside the church. He wasn't really in the church. He'd go to the church on Sabbath, and he'd read from the writings of the prophets. But he was outside the church. He was an outcast. He was with the sinners, the prostitutes. But, the same thing happened. He turned He turned the world right side up, not upside down. It was upside down to begin with. The church, Israel, was a magnet for all these proud people that want to justify themselves and want to look better than their neighbor. So where's your heart? Where's your heart? When you realize that you're not better than anybody else, and you're really a fool, that's when you become a genius. And wisdom is justified of her children. Why is it that David was running around with a band of misfits? He was already anointed king, and he was running around with a band of misfits and outcasts, people that owed money, people that were rejected, you know. I'm not saying that church is a bad thing. But the church that we have today is just, it's a formal structure. It's not alive. It's just a machine. The church that we're supposed to have is family, where strangers are family, where the outcasts are family, where the bridges that were burnt are rebuilt. And who cares if they got burnt? I don't know. I just don't even know what to say. Don't know what to say. Sometimes I think God will give you dreams that are more meant for you than meant to share. There's a lot of details in some of these dreams that are secondary, like Daniel said, that, one of the visions that he was relating, um, he said that he was sharing the main points of the dream. But if God speaks to you in a dream, he'll come to you where you're at on your own level of understanding with things that you can see and others might not even understand. But just let me leave this video with what Jesus said. If you knew what this meant, I desire heart and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. Peace. Let me just make a little disclaimer. My intent here isn't just to justify people going out and partying, going wild, and acting a fool. But, what I'm saying is work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And don't be condemning of others, because how can you remove the speck out of your brother's eye when you've got a stake through your own heart? And how can you cast the first stone when you're guilty of worse if you're judgmental?